Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with Dr. Michael Ryce, the Forgiveness Doctor. And welcome to our Monday show. And here's Dr. Ryce.
After an awesome weekend in the desert, here we are, and we're in Pahrump, Nevada, broadcasting our show from there. Welcome, and we're just getting through a few little technical glitches. Jeannie has not been able to get on the control panel yet, but it's on its way. And so it's a delight to be with you. We've got this gorgeous morning here in Pahrump, Nevada, this beautiful sunny day, and blue skies, absolutely awesome. And we're delighted to be sharing this day with you and our work based in the title, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And what you can do about it. And we're here to support you with learning the tools from the ancient Aramaic of what you can do about whatever's happening in your life. If there's anything going on in your world that has you perplexed, has you in a quandary, has you in difficulty, there are tools from the ancient Aramaic for how to work through that dilemma and move into a true space of connectedness, a space of love, and a space that's different than the way the world generally plays the game of life. So we're here to support you in that. And welcome. And Jeannie is on the air and or on the control panel. David's with us. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Michael.
How are you this morning, sir?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing very well, actually. And it's just kind of interesting when you talk about, this weekend, and here this is Monday. It just seems like it was the other days when we were on the radio. And so many things that are going on. Fabulous day here in the Ozarks. It's a little overcast. We had a nice rain and storm last night. We needed the water. The water is so down here at this particular time. It's amazing. You could, you'll get the picture when I tell you that you could literally take a rock and throw it across the lake. You could almost walk across the lake right now where we normally go swimming. I mean, literally just in 2 minutes walk across it. It's that low. It's as low as I've ever seen it. So life is going on here, getting ready for the intensives, and it's going well. Any questions in the chat line? I haven't been able to get on the chat line. I've been fooling with that, and so I don't know if there's any questions in the chat line or anyone else on the phone want to have a topic today or a particular area they want to chat with.
Say that again, David. You're a little bit fuzzy.
Okay. Wait a minute. Let me see here. I was just checking to see if there's any, I'm unable to get on the chat line at the moment, and I was just checking to see if there are any questions in the chat line and or any callers there to talk about any particular topic they want to talk about. We're going to talk about any questions.
Well, you might want to jump on it again. We were having a little difficulty getting on the control panel, but it's on now, so you should be able to get in, David.
Oh, okay. I'll check it out then. All right. So what's going on this week, Michael? Were you going to be doing some workshops this week?
Well, we are in Las Vegas all week this week. Actually, tomorrow night we'll be in Pahrump at the medical center here doing some work with some clients of health partners in Pahrump, Nevada. And the rest of the week we had an awesome day yesterday with folks at Unity of the Valley in Las Vegas. We did Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And so tonight we'll be back there in Las Vegas and doing the next in the series tonight, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night. Long one. We'll be doing the series of workshops through Friday, and then come Saturday we'll be doing a mini intensive, a 2-day intensive here in Tacoma Hot Springs at a place called Delight Hot Springs. So anybody that's in the Las Vegas area, we'd be delighted to see you at Unity of the Valley, which is in Henderson. Actually, it's technically, as I understand it, in Las Vegas, but pretty close to the Henderson line at near Pecos and was it Pecos and Sunset. So that's where we'll be tonight and for the rest of the week. And so that's what's happening on our end of the world in terms of workshops at this moment. And we may be heading to San Diego. We actually had some folks drive in from San Diego yesterday for the workshops, and so maybe they're wanting us to come and do something there. So we're just kind of up in the air as to what happens next. We're out here letting things just unfold as they unfold. And is Terry with us this morning?
Terry is right here. Hold on.
Oh, good morning, Terry.
Hello, Michael.
Hey, how are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Oh, good. Well, our workshop, our conversation today, I'm not sure if there's anybody, Jeannie, is there anybody in the chat room that's asking questions or anybody on the question line? Not yet this morning, so we'll move in the direction of a conversation about our usual forgiveness and helping to refine the concepts of forgiveness. Has life given you any opportunities this weekend, Terry, to learn forgiveness?
Yes.
You didn't sound too sure about that.
There. Yeah. An opportunity to explore more and more what it is that comes up and what it is I'm holding in me that's less than love and what I want to clean up.
It is an interesting process, being responsible for everything that the mind shows us and shifting it out of the ancient belief that hostility and fear is what makes up the real world, shifting out of that belief into the real world, which of course is made of the stuff that we humans are made of. And what are we humans made of? If you ask anybody on the planet to describe the essence of their newborn child, they'll all tell you the same thing. And that is, it's made of the stuff called love. That's human life. Anything less than that isn't human life. And what we're here to do is to support people in restoring themselves on a very practical level. Not theological ideas, but simply, here's the way it works. Here's how humans are designed to work. We've sort of lost contact to a great degree with what we're designed for, and our work in working with the ancient Aramaic is to support every mind, heart, and being on the planet returning to our original state, that of love. And it's a challenge. You know, as I think about this, I'm reminded of a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, who lived a true human life, who really lived and kind of cajoled people in that culture to move in the direction of living as love. You know, he was sort of the modern initiator of the nonviolent action and as a way of changing things. And people get so steeped and so trapped in the beliefs of hostility and fear that it's difficult for them to start to break loose. And Gandhi said, the Indian people will follow me in life, worship me in death, but not make my cause their cause. And that's just an interesting commentary on how steeped we can be in the world of hostility and fear. And this work is about a step-by-step set of tools for how to give up that hostility and fear. And as we give up that hostility and fear, we'll find that we'll arise from the game of hostility and fear and have the opportunity to play a totally different game. And we're here to support everybody playing a different game than that old one based in hostility or fear. One of the things we talked about on Friday's show was the ancient Aramaic Beatitudes, and the Beatitudes in Aramaic, as opposed to being a nice philosophy, are in fact a way to step into a set of instructions, actually, for stepping into the truth and stepping into how to function as a true human being. One of the main word that's repeated from the Beatitudes is the one that says, "Blessed are they." And it sounds like some kind of a religious idea, and it must be an important concept because this is Yeshua's first public teaching, and he uses this word. Actually, in Aramaic, the word was tuvehun. He uses this word tuvehun repeatedly, over and over and over again. He says it. And he doesn't say, blessed are they, blessed are they, blessed are they. The word tuvehun in Aramaic, rendered more correctly, would be a latent neural structure implanted by the Creator to guide us to happiness and well-being, becomes our conscious possession, we who, and then each of the Beatitudes is a set of instructions. It's how to get back to that original guidance system that's in each of us that gets covered up with the hostilities and fears of the world. The newborn child comes in with it naturally active and expresses as the love that they are. The world, in trying to impress upon the child that that won't work, tries to teach him about the real world and fires all kinds of hostilities and fears at that child. And if the child buys into that, then this neural structure that was implanted in us from the beginning gets covered up. And people would say, well, wait a minute now, 2,000 years ago they understood neural structures? Yes, absolutely. In fact, it's built into the very syntax of the language. The way that suffixes and prefixes are added to words in the Aramaic tells whether a certain neural structure is active in controlling perception, whether it's an unconscious neural structure, and precisely how the mind works. And the scriptures there, the way that it operates, there are no words in any language that I know of that the scriptures have been translated into, certainly not out of the Greek and not out of the Latin and not out of the Old English. But when you go back and start to look at first century meanings of the words, you find that there are instructions. And the first one, classically the first beatitude is translated as, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. If you go to the Aramaic, it doesn't speak about some kind of external blessing happening. It says this latent neural structure becomes active when we, and the word poor, interesting in the name of a man who said, I come to connect you to the spirit of truth. Here we've got somebody trying to tell us we should be poor in spirit. The word there in Aramaic, if you put a fly speck on a piece of paper, the word home is changed to poor. It doesn't say those who are poor in spirit. It says those whose home is in the eternal forces from the Creator. And that the idea is, rather than living in a mind based in hostility or fear, we need to move to a mind based in the active presence of love. And when we start to perceive through that mind, when we start to experience and live through that mind, we have a totally different experience of life. And that's the direction we want to head in, is to continuously have that neural structure active. Of course, the non-being mind, the mind based in hostility or fear, will say all kinds of things about, oh yeah, but you got to be real in this world, and this world is violent, it's vicious, and you need your rage, and you need your defenses, and you need your attack, and all of that. But the truth is, you don't need any of those things. The truth is, those things are the very things that perpetuate attack and keep someone coming at you with some form of attack, simply because you hold a defense. Well, Michael, how does that make sense? Where does that fit in the game? Well, when you look on an energetic level, we live in a resonance world, and the minute that I hold a particular form of defense, I'm literally broadcasting. I had the privilege about 30 years ago getting to do some work with a gentleman named Marcel Vogel, who was a 23-year senior scientist from IBM. Marcel had the instrumentation in the laboratory with which to take a picture of the high energy waves that leave the mind when we think a thought. Literally, energetic fields emanate from us, detailing the very nature of our defense. And as we emanate those fields, guess who's going to show up? It's going to be somebody who's in resonance with that. It's going to be somebody who has the very proper and appropriate attack to match our defense. And as we choose to forgive, we start to move those defenses out. We start to let go of those energies that keep us in a cycle and return to a true human life. And our call-in number, if anybody would like to check in and chat with us, is area code 646-200-4169. We'd be delighted to hear from you and hear of your experiences with the tools that we're teaching, and or if you've been working with any of the tools that we're teaching and have any questions, any thoughts, anything that you'd like us to refine or support you in, we would be absolutely delighted to support you in that. And so any thoughts on the topic, pick up the phone, call us at 646-200-4169. You can also tap into our website, which is www.whyagain.com. And on our website, on the right-hand side, you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. If you haven't started the forgiveness process yet from the Aramaic, click on that link, and the first two items. The first one will give you an explanation of how to use the tool of forgiveness from the Aramaic, and the second link will give you a copy of that worksheet, the how-to of forgiveness, step by step. And not forgiveness in the Greek sense of I'm going to let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me, but rather how do I go inside of me and change the dynamics of my own mind, my own feelings, my own behaviors. And so that's where we want to be heading today. Jeannie tells me that her computer just blue screened her, and so she's going to be out of the game for a few minutes. The technical game of being on the road is always fun, and we're here to support you in entering this path of healing, entering this place that it takes a significant amount of courage to face yourself, to own every hostility and fear that you have in your world and in your life, and begin to work through it. Those who never work through it get stuck in a no-win existence. They believe that everybody else is the problem in their lives, never realizing that they're the only one that was there every time it happens. And, of course, those who live that no-win existence find themselves always struggling in relationship, always wanting to leave relationship because, of course, everybody else has the problem. And sadly, people who live in that world, it's difficult for them to even fathom a world or a relationship where they could actually stay and work through their own issues, because the only option they can conceive of is that of blaming others for their own internalized misery. We're looking to reverse that. If you find yourself living with some form of misery, we're here to share with you that that misery doesn't come from outside of you. Though your mind can show you that somebody else made you miserable, your misery comes from within. It's internal. There is a way to undo the victimhood status and to move forward in a different way, to move forward in an empowered way. But you've got to unlock the dynamics of your own dissociated mind in order to bring change to those internalized dynamics. And, of course, many people take the geographic cure. The character in the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again, Richard, he's running away from another relationship because, of course, here are all these women who cause him problems, and not realizing that he carries the problem with him wherever he goes and that it's going to show up again and again and again. It's time for us humans to stop running. It's time for us humans to be committed, to be there, and to work through whatever it is that we need to be working through. That is, anything in us that causes us pain. So does that bring any thoughts forward, Terry, David?
Yeah, as I listen to you, Michael, I'm often curious as to...
Are you on your speakerphone, Terry, or David?
Okay, hold on. Okay, how's that? Is that better?
Much better, yeah. You can't do the speakerphone on the radio. It's just too fuzzy.
Okay. I'm in looking at and encouraging and supporting people in doing the work. My challenge is always about just that, getting people to take a look at it. And being on the radio show here and talking with people, and I know that there are people that are listening in and people are in the chat room, and the whole challenge is just what you were talking about, is about putting the pen to the paper. And often, especially when we're in it, then that to take that action is, it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of strength in order to do that. This MindShifters support group here, which is the way that I see this radio show, is just that. It's as though that we've all met in a room, and now is the opportunity in order for us to learn something new, something different. You know, there's an expression, I can't do something I don't know if I keep doing what it is that I do know. And the only way for me to learn anything else is to listen to someone else and then follow some instructions that they give me just so that I can have a new experience. I've talked about it on the radio show that our purpose here is to support people for them to explore their own mind, their own beliefs, rather than to offer them another belief system. It is about offering tools and supporting them in using those tools for them to arrive at their own realities, their own choices in life, and to empower themselves to see what it is that's going on and how it is that they're creating it. One of my insights in looking at and going back and remembering is to look at this relationship with who it is that I am and who is the I am, you know, who is the David that's coordinating out here at Heartland, who is the I that I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a teacher, I'm a trainer, and getting back to that true essence of who it is that I am. So who is the I that is the true essence, right? So, and then looking at that as you talk about that this is an energy system, that this body mind...
Just lost you, David. I don't know. There was a little glitch in the sound, and you just about disappeared.
Okay. Well,
you're back again.
Same space. Well, I'm at the same space, so it must just be a technical thing. Let me go ahead and step outside. Maybe it'll work better outside with it. I'll step away from the computer.
You sound better now. You sound okay.
Okay. So just looking at who am I? And that in itself is a real challenge for anyone to, you know, take a look at and see who is it that I am? Who is it that I believe that I am? And just to ask someone to do that is a real risk. You know, like, who am I? And when I say it's a little risk, it challenges everything. So I've been looking at it this weekend and wondering, you know, well, who is it that's even doing the work? Who is it that's challenging who? And the more that I do that, then the more insights that I get. If I don't challenge it, if I refuse to take a look at it, then I know one thing's for certain: everything's going to stay the same. So if anyone has any questions, 646-200-4169, and maybe we can support someone in looking at things different, because this is a MindShifters group. This work that we're doing here, it would be like as if we were in a classroom right now or in a space right now. Well, we're talking about what it is that's going on with us. We'd like to hear from you and see what it is that's going on with you.
Well, David, we got a letter from Sam Brotherton the other day. Jeannie received a letter from her about her experience of using the work, and it's a pretty cool expression of what happens when we start to turn things around. So I'm going to give the phone to Jeannie so that she can share a letter from Sam. And Sam, I don't know if you're out there on the show, but maybe you could call in and talk a little bit about it. Here, Jeannie.
Sam's been doing this work for a long time, and one of the things that we teach is responsibility communication, which is, you know, when things are up for you, you acknowledge that they're yours, you speak responsibly, and instead of projection communication, and you're able to get things done a whole lot smoother, a whole lot quicker. And so Sam had an experience where she bought a new mower, and when it arrived to her, it was damaged. And she sent it back, and they knocked off so much money and asked her if she would take it again, and she agreed. But then when it got there, they brought it on a truck, and the guys unloading it, the ramp was smaller than the lawnmower and all these other things. Anyway, it ended up landing on the mowing deck and causing more issues, and so she refused it again. And the manager at Sears, he said that he totally understood her concerns, and the salesman, he was embarrassed and everything, and they kept telling her that they couldn't believe how calm and how nice she was about it, instead of being irate and just screaming at him and all that. And then, to take it a step further, she actually got a handwritten note from the salesman, and it was to her, and it said, "Thank you for your extraordinary patience and kindness during this unfortunate process. People like you really do make a difference in others' lives. Your patience gave me patience, and your kindness gave me kindness. I wish you the very best for your future. I can't imagine anything else for a person like you. Included is your sales adjustment. You'll notice that the final amount you received is blank, and this, not that it's blank, I'm just not giving out the amount. This is after the tax was applied to the refund. Take care of yourself, and if there is any more problems, feel free to call me. Here's my personal number. Once again, many thanks." And so, it was just awesome to actually get a handwritten note from a salesperson, because she had remained connected to her being in the process of holding them accountable. And screaming and being irate was the furthest thing from being necessary, and it was just awesome. So thank you, Sam, for sharing that with us. And that's just an example of changes that can take place. And then just as another side thing, we've gotten a couple of emails lately from people who have taken the challenge to do 5 worksheets a day for 40 days, and I don't think that they're involved with the game. They've just on their own said, I'm going to do this. And they've shared in emails what a difference it has made and what a transformation they've seen in their life. And then I'm going to put forward a question and then hand the phone back to Michael, and that is, there's been so many people that were, so excited that we're going to be back to Vegas, and they weren't there yesterday. Are they really that excited, or are they until it just gets ready to come up where they have to face it and then they back out? Or I don't understand that. But anyway, here's the phone back to Michael.
Well, it's pretty common, of course, when you see something that can change your life, to become very delighted and excited by it, but then the work of facing what needs to be faced and going through it. And I don't know, has Sam got her hand up by any chance? Can we get her to, would you put your hand up, Sam, so we can bring you on the line? Oh, she's in the chat room, okay. All right, well, if you have the opportunity, Sam, it'd be cool if you would call in, because I'd love to, maybe on this point that Jeannie just brought up, maybe you could share a little bit from your experience of the kinds of things that you've had to face in order to move to the space where you could be so delightful with the salesman that he sends you a thank you note for bringing a problem to him and insisting that he resolve it. And what kind of things have you faced in your own world? And definitely when people have to deal with those things inside themselves that aren't so loving, one of the things that often happens is that they turn tail and run. They go the other direction. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to look at this. I don't want to feel this. And in order to move through what we've dissociated from, what we've denied, when we deny something in our lives, we hide that from ourselves. We dissociate from it. And one of the things that few people realize is that what they've dissociated from, they then wear on their sleeve. That is, it's right out there for all the world to see. They can't see it. It's invisible to them, but the world can look and know exactly what it is, and of course tunes into, resonates with, and tends to bring along an experience that matches what it is we're wearing on our sleeve. And facing that's not always Dr. Feelgood. The healing process is not always Dr. Feelgood. There's some things to go through to come out the other side of that process, for sure. And of course, most people, when they see that there's something inside themselves that's creating some form of trauma or pain. They've got somebody else to blame, and seldom do they ask themselves the question, well, if that other person is the one with the problem, why am I the one with the pain? It's only logical that if that other person was the one with the problem, they'd be the one with the pain. And if I'm in pain, it's because I have a problem. My mind can show me and pretend to me that my problem belongs to someone else, but your problem never belongs to anyone else but you. And Sam, I think that was a great example to be able to go into a situation where, clearly you've been, some people might say defrauded or ripped off or what have you, and to go in a loving space and with simple, loving persistence, consistently, simply ask for compensation for what has happened and to take care of it, and to do that in a loving, gentle, respectful manner. Most of the world thinks, well, if you don't get angry, if you don't have that hostility stuff to protect you, then you're never going to get results. The truth is, the results produced from the space of love are far more powerful than the results produced from hostility and fear. But it's fun to look at yourself. It's fun to go through those things. Have we convinced Sam to pick up the phone yet? No? Okay. Well, anyway, Sam, we love you and bless you, and it's nice to have gotten that feedback from your results in doing the work.
Lisa is on the phone or on the chat room. She said she just explained that for a moment.
So Lisa from Florida. Oh, well, hello, Lisa. It's nice to see you in the chat room. And you've been talking about that principle. You've been teaching this work now to folks for, how long is it? 3-4 years. And it's awesome to see the changes that happen, isn't it, as you share with people the ability to forgive, to remove the drama and trauma from their minds so that they can speak from a calm, centered place of love and from being. And that's what we're looking to support. If we could but do that. I was watching a video the other day. It was actually on violence. And it was a couple of groups in the Middle East. One was a group of Palestinians and working with a group of Jews. And the gentleman who was leading the program was talking about how back when he had a gun in his hand, that was just an enemy over there on the other side. And he decided to take a pledge of nonviolence. And so was able to contact leaders on the Israeli side and start to work with him. And this man explains after he's done this that, I never thought of them as human beings. They were just enemies. And here we are. We're all the same. Here we are, I have my problems, and I want to blame him, and he has his problems, and he wants to blame me. And when we actually come together in a human way, in a space of concern for each other, in a space of gentleness, in a space of respect, all of a sudden, a whole different dynamic happens. We can stop demonizing the enemy and recognize the enemy is a human being with aspirations and hopes and love, and isn't much different than we are. And when we start to communicate from that place, what happens is we find that there's more in common with us as human beings than there are in conflict. And the conflicts begin to resolve. They start to shift and start to move. Otherwise, the fear-based mind, from its own content, fabricates pictures and stories about this demon that's on the other side of the fence, on the other side of the war zone or whatever it is. And, of course, the demon that we see on the other side of the war zone is the one that's inside ourselves, the refusal to own, to look at, to deal with that demon inside ourselves. I love how Gandhi says it. He says the only devil we need to be concerned about is one running around in our own hearts. And if you haven't seen the film Gandhi, watch. It demonstrates some of what he had to go through to get to the point where he understood that, and then how he lives in a pretty strife-filled world, but lives as love and actually approaches his arch enemy in a space of love and expresses how, gee, no, I'm not able to cooperate with what you're doing, but I hope that doesn't come between us as men. In other words, can we honor each other as human beings and start to create a world where honoring becomes more important than winning? And if we can do that, we're going to find some powerful changes take place, powerful changes in ourselves, in our family systems, in our world. But to do that, we've got to remove our own internalized fears and hostilities, or they become the most powerful energetic force that brings others into action. You know, one of the questions I'll often ask in the workshop is, you know, how many have ever gone into someone's space totally committed to being loving, nurturing, and caring, and all of a sudden found yourself functioning like a mad banshee? What happened? Well, if I hold an internalized fear or hostility that I've denied and dissociated from, that becomes a powerful energetic force that brings people into my life. And when they show up in my life and resonate that which I've been able to hide, I will tend to use that very data to build my brain's image of them. And out of my own shadow, out of my own dark side, I see through my own darkened perception someone else as having the very attributes that I refuse to own, to deal with, and heal in myself. And the ancient Aramaic tool of forgiveness is the tool with which you go inside yourself and find that darkened place and clean that darkened place of its hostilities and fears. And when you do that, all of a sudden you don't fabricate out of that anymore. And all of a sudden your pictures, the picture-making mind changes its image of others. Everything that you see is made up of the firing of your brain cells. And so everything that you see in your world has the attributes of what you hold inside your own mind. And we insist that because we see that someone else has that attribute, it must be theirs, refusing to acknowledge that the picture we're looking at is an internal image generated by our own brain, and it tells us more about the content of our mind than the world we think we're looking at. As you recognize that and choose to change the content of your mind, everything in your life and everything in your world changes. Everything shifts. And a whole new game starts to happen. And so we're here to support you in playing that new game. And once again, Sam, to have a salesperson in a large corporation handwrite a note to you expressing how you've changed people's lives just by the way you be. It's so exquisite. It's so awesome, that this man received something from you, a man who perhaps could have been defensive and protective and, I'm not going to give you anything, all of a sudden becomes a cooperator, gives you what you want, and it acknowledges that he's learned patience and kindness from you in a situation where most of the world would see nothing but conflict. What an awesome acknowledgement of you and the work that you've done. It's very powerful. So our phone number is area code 646-200-4169. We'd love to hear your voice on the air. If you pick up the phone, call us. If you have a comment or a thought, and I think we've got Tim Hayes on the line. Those who don't know Dr. Hayes is running a MindShifters support group up in Crystal Lake in the Chicago area, Illinois. Welcome, Dr. Tim. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well, thanks. I
guess it's actually afternoon there in Chicago. It's not afternoon quite yet here in Nevada.
Yep. Well, I was just listening and hoping someone else would call in and provide some meat for the discussion.
Grist for the mill.
Grist for the mill. One of them is someone I know who's known the worksheet process for about 4 years. Was asking me a question about the worksheet process and went from the number 6, where we set a goal for somebody else. This is the 12-step worksheet that we use. And they went from there down to step 10. And I said, well, what happened in step 9? And And the bottom line was that after 4 years of working with it, when I explained to her the idea of canceling the goal for the other person in number 6 and then opening a window to look inside myself and figure out what I'm holding on to that's actually creating my pain, this was brand new material. So it was just a sterling example for me of how when you begin working with concepts that are this new and this deep, it takes many, 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 many layers of repetition before the full meaning starts to become available.
And I think one of the reasons for that challenge, of course, is that at the same time as you're putting in new information that's based in truth, you have to undo the false information that has us continue to proceed through the lie. And, there's where Paul, a couple thousand years ago, said we see as though through a glass darkly. We don't see it clearly until we remove what's unlike it in our mind, which, of course, is back to that forgiveness process.
Yeah, it's very difficult to see or work well with the speck in someone else's eye when the plank is still in my own.
Yes.
The other thing was that I attended the ceremony or it was a presentation. It was a screening of the movie War Torn, and then a discussion panel, and I was on the discussion panel for people who are trying to spread the word about post-traumatic stress disorder. And I just want to put the word out there to anybody listening that if you have a chance to see the movie War Torn, don't. That movie in itself can be traumatizing. The message is well intended. They're trying to spread the word about how the negative effects of war are real, as though people really need to be told that, but apparently we do, and our politicians need to know that. And it traces the history of trauma in war from the Civil War to the present time. But it is just so full of the raw images of the violence that it's traumatizing in itself. So warn your listeners. There are other ways to learn about the negative effects of war. If for some reason you're confused enough to think that war is not a bad thing, there are less traumatic ways to learn about it than watching that movie. But on the positive side, it was very, very warm, very loving. Well over 100 people there on a day when we had 85 degrees and sun, and everybody wanted to be outside in shorts playing with frisbees. To have them gather in the VFW hall and participate in very loving and powerful discussions about how we can help our troops and their families cope with the traumas, mental and physical. So when people come to me, I always hand them the tools that you have given me and placed in my hands, and handed out a bunch of cards and hope we'll get some takers for people who will be able to shift those realities into something much more loving.
Yeah, and if somebody chooses to see a film like that, the constructive use of that kind of imagery can be to really be in the space of connectedness and love, and bring the active presence of love to that event, to that situation. And as you bring love to that situation, then you can literally change the energetics of the external world around such a situation. And at the same time, you can change the internal dynamic in yourself. You can look at and deal with and walk and work through those internal dynamics in the space of that kind of stimulation. But you definitely have to be at a pretty high level committed space to take on that level of work. And it's not a work for wimps, for sure.
Yeah,
How did you make that personally, Tim, with your process in watching it? And
I spent the entire movie doing the EFT tapping and rubbing, and that was the only way I knew from myself and how sensitive I am to those kinds of things that I couldn't function well being a member of the panel if I didn't do something to actively pursue that active presence of love in my thoughts, to reassure myself that these are all spiritual beings that we're seeing on the screen, and that they're in their own process, and that each of them that's no longer here is in a different level of peace and love than we have ever known in the physical plane. And I just I did a lot of tapping and rubbing, and I had a lot of people looking at me like I was very strange. But when it was over, I was then able to start sharing some of those techniques and the ideas about holding a space of love rather than the anger and vengeance. And that was the only way I got through it.
I presume you did a lot of breathing as well.
Deep breathing.
Yeah, that breath is definitely a major key, and so it's certainly a crazy game that's played, and the powers that be that make billions from that game do their best to keep the effects hidden, so that it's kind of sterilized, and it's surgical strikes, and it's not really a problem. And we have a few injuries, but the truth is it's absolutely horrific. And when we start to count the cost, to these young men and women who are in the face of it, I think that the first wave of every war, of the warriors who go over there, should be the ones who are making the money from the war, and the ones who are making the choice to go to war. Let's send them out there with the guns and the bombs and the surgical strikes, and then let's see if there's a second wave that's asked to go. And I think we'll find that it'll probably disappear very quickly from the planet.
Yeah, my thought about it is that the other cost is the energetics and the anger and fear, feeding on the anger and fear, and it just makes me want to redouble my efforts to spread the message of love to people, so that we reach that critical mass, or that sufficient leavening to leaven the whole loaf, and we've turned the tables globally.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely join with you in bringing that forward, Tim, to the culture, this culture in particular, and then to the whole world culture, because war has become such a common event in our civilization. Or pardon me, actually, I'm reminded about a question Gandhi was asked, and he said, "What do you think about Western civilization?" And it's reported that Gandhi said he thought it would be a really good idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you look at the violence, and you don't have to go far to go to the downtown area of just about any city, and you'll see the same dynamics: the viciousness, the belief that it's a dog-eat-dog world. And of course, we can create a dog-eat-dog world. That's part of our creative process, if we choose to do that. And we can heal the dog-eat-dog world and come back to a space of connectedness and love. I know, working within the prison system and watching the changes in some of these people's lives that have only seen a dog-eat-dog world and never realized that there was anything else possible. It's awesome to watch their eyes open, and they start to recognize that something different can happen. Jeannie and I worked with a couple in South Florida when we were there last month, and there was a young man who had been a military trainer, and he was a big guy. He was about 6'7", and really trim and fit and all. And after he came to a MindShifters and Still Point Breathing workshop, and after one of the breathwork sessions, he came to me and he said, I realized that when I was doing that military training, he said, I was an animal. He said, I was just an animal, and I turned other men into animals. I was good at it. He said, that was my specialty. I trained warriors, and I made them into animals. And one of the things he shared with me was that he had made a commitment to be a vegetarian as one small way to make up for all the killing that he'd done. And in tears, he spoke of how he now is working especially with AA and NA groups, because he came back from the Middle East with drug and alcohol problems. And having worked through that himself, his work now is that of supporting others in healing their alcoholism and healing their drug abuse and coming back to the experience of a human life. And it's powerful to watch somebody who's been at that space. We talked to David. David was in Vietnam, and we've gone through many layers, haven't we, David, of your experiences there and giving up the insane way of functioning that whole lifestyle supports.
Yeah, there's and I was talking with Terry. I think it was Terry this weekend about that. It's easy to buy into. It was easy for me to buy into resolving that problem through the same methods of what it is that they are teaching and doing. I remember a breath session that what you're referring to of when I gave up violence. And I'd given up violence actually about 25 years ago or so, 26 years ago, and through a verbal commitment. And then I let go of it on a cellular level when I was here at Heartland when we were doing the breath work, and I think that's what you're referring to, because, to that mentality of I know how I'll stop violence, I'll take out certain people, and then that violence will be ended. Well, there's no resolve to that. The only resolve is letting go of the violence within oneself. And that, I think it's great to be informed about what it is that leaders are doing and what our governments are doing and what organizations are doing. And there's a lot of people that talk about that. There's very few people that take the personal action. And that's what it really is. It's kind of like what Tim was talking about. He kept doing his tapping and he kept doing his breathing, and that's just my projection of it, so that he could take care of himself and hold the space to the best of his ability. For there's that energy that's around that is just there to support and reinforce that energy. To me, have to be really conscious about the intention of the group that I'm around. I've talked with veterans and veteran groups. I've talked with veterans that I was in service with, and very few are willing to even to view it as any differently. It's so ingrained with it. So there is a lot of work to be done around that. And as you know, Michael, I've been talking about this as far as working with veterans and making those shifts. And if it isn't done on that level, then in working individually with veterans themselves, the ones that are willing to let go of it, our society is going to reap the consequences from all of that. For there is so much that is being hidden and reinforced through approvals and acknowledgments of what it is that's being done. So I encourage people to do it on an individual basis. When as you mentioned this, Michael, first I had to do was give up violence in my life. I had to let go of it within myself, own that, take that as my ownership before I could ever approach anyone about what it is that they were doing. Kind of like what Tim was talking about, the beam and the plank and in my own eye. So that's what we're here and what this group is for, is to support people in doing that. Can never let go of violence without seeing it out there. Maybe we'll talk about that at some other time. How to let go of that violence. I think we're getting short on time.
The answer is real simple on that one. It's all of the above. It's every tool we teach. If you want to look at the different workshops that we do teach, you can go to the website and look at products available And every workshop has a different tool. Why is this happening to me again? Healing through relationships, codependence to interdependence. Tonight in Las Vegas, we're going to do purpose, personal power, and commitment. Then tomorrow night we're doing Empowered to Heal. Tuesday we're off. Wednesday night we're doing Empowered to Heal. Then Thursday doing Naturopathic Keys to Health. And Friday, Laws of Living. So we'll be doing a powerful series and looking at some of those tools. If you want access to the tools, you can go to the website. You can order those DVDs and share them with your community. There's a wonderful African proverb that says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And when we get to the point where each one teaches one, then we begin to move things in a direction that changes everything. And that's what we're here to do, to change everything, especially everything based in the insane world of hostility and fear. And it is definitely insane.
There was one comment in the chat room was talking about that they had a neighbor and they lived in another state, and they were talking to this person in the same state that their mother lived in, and they were concerned about their mother, and so she offered to go over and check on her, and all of a sudden they became mad at her and told her that she was a pain in the you-know-what, and what it was is that there was a fear that they had, that they were holding about their mother, and then she became the target because she was all of a sudden going to alleviate that fear, and he wasn't ready to face that, and so he became totally angry. And so we were discussing in the chat room that anger is just a cover for the fear, and that they can deal with the fear, that the anger will go away. But and then she replied back and said, yeah, but you've got to be able to see it before you realize that it's even there. And she thought it was great that David could own that he saw that he had fear and violence, or anger and violence in himself.
Yeah, it's powerful to be able to start to see that what looks like it's on the outside is really an internal condition, and that when we're feeling something, we're feeling it because of our internal condition, not because of an external circumstance. We run into a major problem when we hook up what's going on inside of us to external circumstance, because then we think we're controlled by external circumstance. Excuse me. You are never controlled by external circumstance. You are always controlled by your own internal dynamics. If you let yourself become aware of your internal dynamics, guess what? They're all changeable. If you think they're outside of you, if you hook them up to external circumstance, then of course they're not changeable. You're stuck with them because it's happening out there. And, one of my favorite tongue-in-cheek lines, I'm sure many of you have heard me repeat often, is if you've been through it 87 different times with 42 different people, you're the only one that was there every time. And so just the act of letting go of the hookup in the brain that this trauma, pain, turmoil, hostility, grief, fear is caused by something outside of me. It's that circumstance that does it. And recognizing that it's an internal condition. Oh, this is inside of me. Now that you know it's inside of you, although that may seem like a challenge, all of a sudden you're in control of it. You can throw it away if you like. You can forgive it. And forgiveness is applied not to the people in our lives that show us things that we don't want to deal with. Forgiveness is applied to the conditions inside ourselves with which we remove those conditions. And when you become aware that your life is not everybody else's fault, it's not your fault either. It's just your responsibility. Then you bypass the traps of hostility and fear. You bypass the traps of projection, and you start to break through the blocks in your own mind. The Aramaic Beatitudes are about breaking through those blocks and waking up to who we as human beings truly are, and functioning as we are designed to function. And that is as beings made of the stuff called love, functioning out of the stuff called love, and experiencing that love at every turn. When you do that, you set the ground for your life to be, your year to be, the best year yet of your eternal life. And that's exactly what we hold for you, that this year will absolutely be the best year yet of your eternal life. We're designed for each one to get better, and we're here to support you in that. Hope your day is blessed. Bye-bye.